We have to say good evening to start out. We have to give that aloha greeting to all our friends on the mainland who will be studying these recordings. And you'd be surprised how many of them hearing these tapes from out here have developed the wanderlust to see Hawaii, and a few of them are making their first trip for this class. I just hope we haven't oversold Hawaii to them. That isn't possible, however. Hawaii is always far greater than our greatest concept of it. No matter what you think about Hawaii, or how much you think you know about it, or how much you feel about it, the next day you always find that Hawaii is even greater than that and more intense. You know, we have had several occasions on which it has been brought out that you cannot get out of life what you haven't put in. In other words, we have had here at several of these sessions it has come up that only the bread that we cast on the water is the bread that comes back to us. And that part of the penalty of human existence is that very often we are putting our fingers out and touching the bread that belongs to our neighbor, and we get burnt. Now, in the scheme of life, it isn't possible to possess or achieve or accomplish anything except that which we ourselves have released, that which we have put out into this world. And tragedy comes because in life we do borrow too much of our neighbor's oil. Sometimes go beyond borrowing. Now, this bread that is cast upon the waters has many forms. It may actually be benevolence or charity. It may actually be a service or services to mankind or members of our community. But more than that, it is a spiritual thing. The bread that we place on the waters is a spiritual bread. I am the bread of life. Whenever the Master refers to bread, you know that he is not referring to that bread which is baked. And when he refers to water and to wine and to meat, he is not referring to that which we buy at the market. He is talking about this spiritual consciousness, this spiritual knowledge, wisdom. Now, yes, it's called truth. Truth. He's talking about truth. I am the way, I am the life, I am the truth. I am the bread, I am the wine, I am the water. In other words, this spiritual truth is the bread, the meat, the wine, the water. And the amount of truth that we release is the bread that comes back to us. Come on, fellow, you have your own abiding place. Now, in proportion as we abide in truth, let truth abide in us, we are releasing bread out into the waters of life. And it is that bread that comes back to us. It is not enough just to loose this spiritual bread. Along with it, the Master shows that we are to give service. That you'll remember we had in the 25th chapter of Matthew, and it would be good for you to study that 25th chapter of Matthew to see how important it is to visit those in prison, or to comfort those that mourn, or to heal those that are sick, and feed those that are poor. That is a part of our work on the service level. So is benevolence, charity. But over and above all is the amount of truth that we know and loose upon the waters. Now, that we do in the form of what we call treatment or prayer. And that is done in those periods, or at that period, during that period each day, when in communion we begin to know the truth about this universe, about our neighbor. That's part of loving our neighbor as ourselves. And that is the important time of our day. It is in that period that we forgive our debtors, that we forgive those who trespass against us. It is in that period that we forgive our enemies, those who persecute us and despitefully use us. It is during that period that we pray for our enemy. Not only our personal enemies, but the enemies of mankind. It is during that period, we'll call it a meditation period, and you'll find a beginning instruction in that in the June letter. It is in that period of our day that we turn loose upon the waters of life all of the truth that we can bring to conscious remembrance. Certainly, we have the privilege of knowing the truth about our own existence and our families and our home, our individual lives. But we have a greater responsibility and duty, and that is to know the truth about God's government of the universe, about God's government of individual being, and, as I say, bring into that period the forgiving of trespasses, the forgiving of sins, and the praying for our enemies. Now, you will find that your life experience becomes the direct fruitage of those periods of the day. That is what changes one's life. There is no outside God to do it. There's no mysterious God sitting up in heaven to bless one and damn another. That God is no respecter of persons. Not only God is no respecter of persons, but actually God is no respecter of persons. God is a respecter only of those who abide in the Word and let the Word abide in them and loose it on the waters of life. Now, anybody in the world can begin at any given moment to bring about changes in their lives. The changes may not come in 5 minutes or 5 days. And the reason is this, that there must be a change of consciousness. And a change of consciousness doesn't take place just because you read some books or make some statements of truth. The change of consciousness comes when these truths are realized within one's being, when they become rooted and grounded in one, when they become understood rather than just declared. Anybody can sit down and memorize and recite a lot of spiritual truths or metaphysical truths, but that is not of too much value unless one is doing it for the purpose of enriching their consciousness. The enriching of consciousness is what produces the outer harmonies. Now, anyone can take a moment like this and say, here I am, and here is what my life has been up to this moment. But it doesn't satisfy me. I look for richer experiences in life. I look for deeper experiences, more harmonious experiences. And now the question is, how can I have these experiences since I realize that there is no God going to give them to me and no God going to withhold them from me, and whatever takes place must take place as an activity of my consciousness. It must take place as an activity of truth in my consciousness. Then I can sit here in this moment and say, all right, the past is forgotten. Though my sins were scarlet, at this minute I'm white as snow. Why? Because I have no selfish motive in my mind at this moment. I'm not seeking anything from anyone. I'm not asking for favors. I'm not looking to anyone. I'm sitting here in my realization of the omnipresence of good, of God. And so to that extent that I'm communing with God, I am pure. I would only be impure if I had an ulterior motive. That is, if I was seeking a gain from somebody or some experience or some thought or something. But I'm not. I'm sitting here in this communion for the purpose of bringing to light the harmonies of God, the deeper joys of the Spirit, the greater health that comes with spiritual understanding, the greater supply that comes when we tap the infinity of God's storehouse rather than any concern for what is already in the world. Now, how am I to achieve this spiritual regeneration? How am I to accomplish this dying daily to the man I have been and a rebirth into the man I would like to be? The fulfillment of the pattern shown on the mount. And so we come to this casting of our bread upon the waters. And that's what we're going to do in this meditation or communion. Now, we have the New Testament and many passages, illustrations, incidents in the Old Testament. And for those who are familiar with other Scripture, there are many marvelous things in the other Scriptures of the world that will help at this moment of meditation or communion to show us what we must do. Now, from our study in the infinite way, we do have a pattern, not a formula, because all of this work has to be spontaneous. But we do have a pattern, and the pattern begins with the word God. God is the creative principle of this universe. God made all that was made, and all that he made is good. God is the creative principle of this universe. There is nothing in this universe to be feared. There's no one to be feared. God made this universe. I'm not denying now that there are many appearances to the contrary, or I am not denying that there are many people who really believe they have power to imprison us or set us free. Pilate believed that for a while. I have power to crucify you or to set you free. Oh, no, says the Master. Oh, no, you haven't. Thou couldst have no power over me unless it came from the Father in heaven, unless it were given thee by the Father in heaven. And anything the Master said is a universal principle. That's where the word cosmos comes in, cosmic comes in. Anything that the Master said is a cosmic truth, a universal truth, and if true of one, it is true of all. And so therefore we can say also, God made all that was made. All that God made is good. Therefore, I shall fear no one on earth, in heaven, or in hell, nor any circumstance or condition, regardless of its appearance. Oh yes, I may be compelled to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but I will fear no evil, for God is still the creative principle of this universe, and God is ever with me. Oh yes, I may make my bed in hell, but I will not fear it, for it can have no power over me, since God is the only power. Nothing on earth, in heaven, or in hell can have power unless it derives that power from God. God is the soul of man. And therefore, man is pure. And man means all men and women and children and animals. Appearances do not confirm that. Judge not after appearances, says the Master. Judge righteous judgment. Do not judge after appearances. We know these evil appearances are in the world. That's what has turned us to the study of spiritual wisdom. The mere fact that there are these appearances of sin, disease, death, war, dictatorship. These abound in the world, and these have driven us to go beyond appearances to reality, and it is there, in the Master's revelation, where we find that God is the soul of man. Why callest thou me good? Not even I, Jesus, am good. There is but one good, the Father in heaven. And then to those that the world calls sinners, he said, neither do I condemn thee. Who did condemn thee? Who did judge thee? And so, in this meditation or communion with God, we find no sin. We find no sin in anyone. We recognize God to be the soul of every individual. And there you see we are praying for our enemies. We are forgiving those who have trespassed against us. And we've done it by acknowledging that God is their very soul. What difference does it make if the world says it is a woman taken in adultery? What difference does it make if it is someone whom the world says is a thief on the cross? What difference does it make what the world says? We know that God is the very soul, the only good, the very soul of individual you and of me, the very soul of man. And so, in knowing that, we understand that the faults of mankind, the sins, the errors, are but those delusions of sense that are binding the individual who does not know God as their source. Isn't it easy in that understanding to say with the Master, neither do I condemn thee? Or, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. You know, when he says, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do, he is revealing that they are destroying themselves and do not know it. No one individual ever ruins another. No one individual ever kills another. No one individual ever defames another. They're always doing it to themselves. It doesn't make any difference whether temporarily you may suffer from someone else's false concept or gossip, scandal, rumor, ill will. That's not important. The important thing is that as long as you refuse to avenge yourself or revenge yourself, leave all that with God. As long as you refuse to take steps against them, you yourself are maintaining your purity and making it inevitable that the other party awaken and be awakened through what they're bringing upon themselves. Always remember, there is no such thing as malpractice except self-malpractice. Never fear what anyone can do, because they are doing it only to themselves, and we can be big enough knowing that to forgive them. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. You cannot imagine the depth of a feeling that comes to you once you realize that no one in heaven, on earth, or in hell has any power to do anything to you for evil. Because soon after that you learn that no one can do any good to you either. Whatever good comes into your experience, no matter who it comes through, has come from your own casting of bread upon the water. You yourself determine how much good shall come to you by how much bread you cast upon the water in spiritual truth, in knowing the truth about the world, in forgiving and praying for the enemies, and then in following it up with some form of service, benevolence, charity, whatnot. Now, this form of meditation or prayer is an acknowledgement that there is a cosmic law, a universal law, and that it is this cosmic law which is impersonal, impartial, universal, and which therefore is a constant source of blessing to everyone. But there is a mystery here that so far I have not found in the literature of the world. If it's there, I haven't understood it. You cannot violate cosmic law and benefit by it. You cannot violate the law of God and benefit by it. There is, in human language, something like, you must come with clean hands. The meaning of that is this: if there is anything of a selfish nature in our attitude of life, in our general attitude of life, we are violating cosmic law. In other words, you can't turn to law, to cosmic law, and have it bring health to you. That's an impossibility. You can turn to it and realize that its nature is the health of this universe, and thereby bring yourself into it. But the moment you try to narrow it down to you, you have gotten entirely away from it. It is in the same way that if we were to try to attract to ourselves anything out here in this universe, we would be trying to divide up that which is, that which already exists. That's a form of communism or socialism. The moment we would try to desire anything that is already in existence, we are trying to divide, and we are not availing ourselves of cosmic law. Cosmic law is a multiplier of loaves and fishes, not a divider. And so, in order to bring ourselves under cosmic law and receive spiritual blessings, we must take the attitude that God is the source of our good, that God, the universal, is the source and fount of our good, and then find some way to let it flow, rather than turn out here and expect it from some source already in existence. Cosmic law is a free flowing of infinity from what we may term the heart of God. Cosmic law is that which sends the sun out into the world to shine all over the world. That cosmic law is that which gives us pure air throughout the universe. Cosmic law is a source of supply that fills the hills with the 1,000 hills with cattle, that fills the earth with crops, that fills the sea with fish, fills the air with birds. That's cosmic law, the multiplying of infinity of good. And we avail ourselves of the cosmic law as long as we are not desiring. Because the moment we're desiring it from out here, from where it's already in effect, and where the only way to attain it would be to divide it up. You see, just as you do not expect to get health at the expense of your neighbor, so you cannot expect to get supply at the expense of your neighbor. Nor can you expect to get fame at the expense of your neighbor. Nor can you expect to get happiness or joy or peace or prosperity at the expense of your neighbor. And yet, you'd be surprised how much of the ordinary human life is involved in activities through which some good could come to them at somebody else's expense, or how little thought we give to the fact of whether or not that which we are seeking is a source of either injury, inconvenience, or loss or lack to someone else. Abide in the cosmic law through the realization that it is a gift of God, universally expressing itself to all those who can receive it. You may say, why doesn't everyone in the world have this infinite abundance? It is only because everyone isn't equipped at any given moment to give up the selfish desires, their selfish mode of life, and be willing to see God's rain fall on the unjust as well as the just. One of the most frequent comments that is heard in this work is, I don't think it's quite fair that the sinner should get just as much good as the saint. Meaning, I've been so saintly for so long, I don't like to see the other fellow who hasn't been making that sacrifice get as much good as I get. But this cosmic law operates in that way. The cosmic law is an infinite outpouring of good. But it's an infinite outpouring of good that has only one object, and that is that we should experience that infinity of being. It is in the 15th chapter of John where we are reminded that it is God has His pleasure in our abundance. God has His pleasure in our abundance. God has, it's His joy, it's His life that we be fruitful. Why, certainly it is. Herein is God glorified, that ye bear much fruit. God's glory does not come in our being sick, or our being poor, or our being in misery. God's glory can only be made manifest in our joy, in our health, in our prosperity. And so we must attune ourselves to the realization that our good is the free-flowing allness of God. Now, to benefit by cosmic law, be watchful that no sense of selfishness or self-benefit intrude into the thought without being corrected. Now, of course, in our present state of life, it isn't quite possible to keep selfish thoughts out, or thoughts of self-interest, or self-glorification. But it is possible, when these thoughts intrude, to recognize them, take hold of them, and reverse them, thereby bring oneself into cosmic law. So I wouldn't be surprised that more will develop along this line of the cosmic, since it has been playing a big part in my life this past week, and more especially the vision is coming so clearly to me that the only way that we can lose out on cosmic law, the only way that we can keep it from benefiting us, is in the degree that we would personalize or be indulgent of self with it. So, watch that point and think about it between now and the middle of June. When thought turns in any direction, that would bring about a sense of lack, makes no difference what form the lack is, or any sense of something that may be gotten or demonstrated, or even anything that's needed. When any sense of need comes to the thought, reverse it immediately through your knowledge of the fact that it cannot come to you. No matter what it is, it cannot come to you. It has to be released from you. There we go back again to casting the bread upon the waters. Whatever it is that appears to you now as a need can only become fulfillment in the realization, oh yes, let's take this. I am come that ye might have life, and that ye might have life more abundantly. Now, the moment a sense of need appears, the moment the need of anything appears, take hold of that and realize now, wait a moment, there is a sense of need, there is a sense of lack, but also there is fulfillment. The cosmic law is an assurance of fulfillment. How? Well then let's come back to this. I am come that ye might have life, and that ye might have it more abundantly. Then this fulfillment must come from that I within me. The kingdom of God is within me. This fulfillment must come from within me. And it may be that you'll quickly discover you have been damming it up in some way, or that the time hasn't come for the fulfillment. Always remember, there is a right time for fulfillment, and that right time isn't always the moment we think. So let us be patient with ourselves, and always remember no condemnation, no self-condemnation. Don't start this self-pity business about, am I worthy, or do I have enough understanding, or am I separate from God? Get rid of that nonsense. God is only glorified in that you bring forth much fruit. So don't start any form of self-condemnation, but start along the line of wisdom, which says, I am come. The I at the center of my being is come that I might be fulfilled. Therefore, the source of fulfillment is within me. And I'm sure that very quickly you'll see that there will be some way, either for you to know a truth, or to serve somebody, or to give something, that will begin to open up the flow. Because it always must start from you, not to you. The coming to you is the reflex action of what goes out from you. And there you have a cosmic or universal law of supply. Whatever it is that comes to you is only given impetus by what goes out from you. There is no way to sit here and want something to come in. You remember we used that illustration here, that before we came into this room, it was an empty room. There wasn't anything here to come to you, nor is there anything out in the world. The world is a blank place. And now we come along and we want something or we need something. But I can tell you, it isn't out in the world to be gotten. It's within you to be released. And so the getting is only a reflex action of the giving. Now, if we have nothing else, we do have truth. If we have only one statement of truth, we have truth. And we can start to express our truth. If we have nothing else, we have some service that we can give to somebody. If we haven't, we can look out of our window and start talking to the birds or the trees or the shells on the seashore. It doesn't make any difference. They all are forms of life, you know, and we can commune with them as well as we can with each other. Very often it's wise to leave the world of humankind and go out and mingle more with the ocean or the trees or the flowers and commune with them, and in that communion start to give. And the getting is a reflex action of it. Now there you have a cosmic law, a universal truth, that the bread that we cast on the water comes back to us. And it comes back to us not as bread, except in the sense of coming back as the staff of life, truth, love, life, spirit, soul, consciousness, awareness, reality, true being. And in that we find our health, we find our supply, we find our companionships, we find our successes. Remember, there is never any need to indulge self-condemnation for failure. Failure only represents a temporary sense of ignorance. And so there's nothing terrible about failing. Sometimes failure is the greatest avenue opening ourselves to a greater success through placing it on a spiritual basis instead of on a material basis. And so let no one be ashamed of failure, and on the other hand, let no one boast of success, because unless that success has really and truly been based on a spiritual realization, it isn't the true success. If it is based on the true spiritual realization, there can be no glorying in it, because it's of God, not of man. And so it'll be until Sunday. Thank you.